Gleason and special friends.
Thanks, Robin. We're wrapping up our School of Jazz Week in a big way today. Remember to find all the information on this year's Volume 10 of the KPLU School of Jazz CD at our website, which is schoolofjazz.org, where you can pick up your own copy and help support high school music programs around the Northwest. We are proud to welcome a small group of all-stars from the Bellevue High School Jazz Band with special guest David Marriott on trombone. Let's hear it for the Bellevue High School Jazz Combo. about that? Mostly teenagers playing on that tune. It's the Bellevue High School Jazz Combo, live in the studios here at KPLU. The brand new Volume 10 of the KPLU School of Jazz CD is out now. And right now I'd like to get some introductions of the band from the band leader of the Bellevue High School Jazz Ensemble. It's Ed George. Ed, introduce our players today.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce them. On piano, Melvin Sutrisno. On tenor sax, Winston Zhang. On alto sax, Griffin Hale. On bari sax and later clarinet, Jungwoo Lee. On trumpet, Alex Clark. On bass, Jake Escobar. And on drums, Sean Mahony.
Fantastic. Let's go to Griffin next, who got a really great alto sax solo on that tune and on the CD, by the way. Tell us about working on the KPLU School of Jazz CD and going in the studios and working with David Marriott.
Well, with Dave, it really helps with the improv side of things because he just knows the jazz language better than all of us, and he's been at it longer than us, and especially with repeating licks and known like licks by the classic jazz artists, then we just can copy that and emulate that, and it's good for our playing.
And the recording experience, how long did it take to get your song down?
It was a couple hours. It was just repeating the sections back and forth and working it out and figuring out what we had to improve on.
It sounds fantastic. I encourage everyone to pick up a copy of the School of Jazz Volume 10. It's online, schoolofjazz.org. I wanted to ask Ed George a little bit about the incredible amount of talent we have in the Northwest with area high school jazz bands always showing up at essentially Ellington concerts in Washington, D.C., often taking first or second or third place. And, of course, there's the Hot Job of Cool Jazz, all kinds of great programs for high school jazz around the Northwest. What is it that makes our kids better than all the other kids out there?
Well, success definitely breeds success. So I know that having great bands in the area, I don't want to start naming too few because I know I'll leave out people. But, Garfield and Roosevelt, with Clarence A. Cox and Scott Brown, and then before that, Hal Sherman, Leo Dodd, Al Jones. There's just been a great history of amazing jazz educators in the Seattle area, and our kids see what kids at other high schools are doing, and they rise to that level of playing, and they aspire to do the same sort of things.
Love it. Little positive jazz peer pressure. Let's bring David Marriott around, our special guest on trombone. David, who left the area after school to go play jazz on the East Coast, if I'm not mistaken. What brought you back home, first of all?
Well, I always knew I would be coming back home. This was always, the plan was always to return to Seattle. I moved to New York really so I could get better, like all these guys are going to go on to do, to hopefully try to get better and come back and be as much a part of the scene as I could be, and hopefully have something to add because of my experience living in New York for 6 years and getting to play with the greatest in the world.
Now, what do you see a difference between the jazz band high school scene when you were in high school and what's happening now?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I was there kind of at the beginning. I was a Garfield High School student in the early '90s, and my freshman year we didn't win a single trophy, and wasn't that good of a band. But we started winning my freshman year and didn't lose a single festival the whole time I was there, and that was really the beginning of that sense of, well, we can keep doing this year after year, just like we're hoping the Seahawks will do, and those kinds of things. So yeah, absolutely, it's completely different because now there's 20 years of that out there for people to go, I want to be a part of that. We didn't have that at the beginning, and now there's that feeling of being part of something bigger.
Exactly, right on. Well, we're going to get back into the music and hear another tune. This next one, one of my favorites, often played by Miles Davis and his bands, written by Wayne Shorter, Footprints, the Bellevue High School Jazz Combo, live on KPLU. Take it away, kids. All-Stars of the Bellevue High School Jazz Band are here, the Bellevue Jazz High School Jazz Combo, live in our studios. It's School of Jazz Week on KPLU, and the brand new Volume 10 of the KPLU School of Jazz is out now. Special guest David Marriott on the trombone with the band today. You can track down a copy of your own and find out more information. You can hear all the student guest DJs that we've had all week on the radio and hear their shows as well at our website, schoolofjazz.org. And we're going to get a couple of students out front to talk a little bit about learning jazz. Drummer Sean is going to talk to us a little bit about what are the first things you learn when you're learning about jazz as opposed to other music?
I think the first thing that you have to learn is that you have to be able to kind of change, just like work with others and be able to. And it's more complicated than other styles of music, because you have to be willing to change something at such a short, with such short notice. Change this, play this instead of that. And with like other styles of music, the music is laid out for you. With jazz, it's not always like that. You sometimes have to just suddenly change something on the dot.
Melvin has stepped up too. You have something to say on the subject?
I think, yeah, just like that, jazz is a lot more free. You have a lot more freedom to play what you want, to do what you want, as long as you listen and you pay attention to how others are doing. But that gives you so much more freedom to react, and that's one of the things I love about jazz, and I love playing.
And I hear from you guys talking about skills that are going to take you a long way in the future, about listening and working together and being able to adapt on the fly. I think it's so valuable. But one question I think a lot of our listeners have when they call up and they hear the School of Jazz songs, how do young kids get into jazz? What was it for you two guys that struck up an interest in jazz for you? We'll start with Melvin.
So for me, I actually started out listening to gypsy jazz, which is a much more string-based than something like a horn-based combo like we are. So it was a violin, some guitars, and bass, and this was from my elementary school teacher, and I just really, really liked the sound. And then I also found ragtime, because I was a classically trained pianist, and I said, I like this sound too. And that brought me to go to jazz band in junior high, and I was like, you know, I really like this, and that's when I really took it to heart.
Drummer Sean, tell us a little bit about what got you hooked on jazz.
Neither of my parents are musicians. I can't think of anybody in my family who's really a musician, actually. So it was kind of, I just came into middle school, and I saw that there was a jazz opportunity, and I had signed up for band, and I thought to myself, hey, maybe I'll give this a try, see how it works out. And I came to the second jazz band, and I thought it was a really fun experience, and so I decided to, keep going with it, and then it just kind of took off from there.
We'll bring band director Ed George back to the microphone and special guest trombonist David Marriott back to the microphone. I'd like to ask you guys, how do you get kids interested in jazz? Ed?
Well, it's so important to play the great recordings for them. I mean, there's only so much that I can teach them, but if I can get them hooked on the greats and the masters, I mean, where they really start learning it on their own, that's how they get as good as these kids you hear today and the other great kids around the Northwest.
David, do you think it is a matter of hearing masters of the instrument like J.J. Johnson in your case, or John Coltrane or Cannonball Adderley?
Yeah, definitely. It's tough in today's day and age when there's so much music available to these guys with YouTube and Spotify. They can listen to anything, anytime. And yet finding stuff that they connect with is probably still just as hard as it was when we were discovering jazz. But finding that thing that you connect with is the biggest part. And for me, it was my dad put on a J.J. Johnson record and said, you might like this. I was really hating playing the trombone, and he put that on, and I went, I want to do that. Whatever that is. I didn't know what it was called, but I want to do that.
And one more question for you two guys is I often hear from professional musicians who also teach is they get a kick out of actually learning from the people that they're teaching. And I wonder if working with young kids gives you any impression of where jazz could be headed in the future. Ed, give it a shot.
Yeah, I always enjoy when kids bring new music and new recordings to me. They've got a lot more time than I do at this point in my life to be going and listening, and they're wise young men and women, and they've got great taste.
David, do you find that to be the case, that they're bringing music that you might not have otherwise heard?
Absolutely. The time I get to spend listening to new music is pretty rare these days, and usually it's from the radio, and I don't get to discover that much, and these guys are discovering new music all the time, bands like Kneebody and Snarky Puppy, and there's all kinds of stuff that I'm just finding out about that's amazing. I wish I had known about sooner.
We are going to hear another song, one last tune from the Bellevue High School Jazz Combo. Once again, you can find more information, pick up your copy of the School of Jazz CD, Volume 10, at our website, schoolofjazz.org. And we're going to wrap it up with a little bebop from the kids, Charlie Parker's tune, Scrapple from the Apple, live on KPLU. Blow, boys, blow.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Thank you.
Students of the Bellevue High School Jazz Band live on KPLU. Fantastic stuff from all the kids. Melvin, Winston, Griffin, Jungwoo, Jake, Sean, Alex, and thanks also to Ed George, the band leader. Fantastic stuff. Congratulations on a great year for the kids.
Thank you.
And thank you to David Marion, our special guest on trombone. We hope to see you back in our studios soon. Thanks to our audience members, some of the parents of the kids in the studios today. Thanks to our Leadership Circle members who help, and all of our listeners who help to make sure that there's a home for jazz on the radio and a home for high school jazz musicians on the radio. It's just a pleasure. Thank all of you at home listening and all of you here in the studios. And at this point, we'll send it back to Robin Lloyd with more Midday Jazz on KPLU.
Thanks, and again,